Today's episode of the Watson Weekly Podcast is brought to you by Miracle. With over 450 global e-commerce customers, they're the engine for e-commerce growth. Meet with one of their e-commerce experts at Shoptalk booth 1746 to explore how you can open new revenue streams with both marketplaces and retail media to better serve customers and drive real revenue growth. What's stopping you from joining this retail revolution? Visit them at booth 1746. It's March 24th, 2025, and this is the Watson Weekly, your essential e-commerce digest. Today on our show, Adobe teases new e-commerce offerings. BigCommerce launches new account functionality. Klarna files IPO paperwork. And welcome to Shoptalk Week. And finally, the Investor Minute, which contains 5 items this week from the world of venture capital, acquisitions, and IPOs. But first, in our shopping cart full of news, Adobe teases new e-commerce offerings. It seems to me like Adobe is going to be announcing some new products in June 2025, but I'm not eating the cheese here. You know, Adobe's e-commerce efforts have been wandering in the desert for the last several years. They've tried to sell people on the whole PWA headless thing several years back, which kind of blew up mostly in clients' faces. You would have needed an elite system integrator to do it right, and from my industry conversations, mostly that did not exist. Separately, the industry is looking for that Shopify alternative. Not that Shopify is not doing a good job, because they kind of are, but the world needs competition, and I think even Shopify would agree with that. Let's review the options for a moment. Salesforce keeps laying off people and changing leadership. Plus, it's obviously they are truly trying to sell you Data Cloud more than anything, which you need to run their agents, with a few feints and dabbles in other areas as the exception. BigCommerce has a new leadership and approach, but they're not going to challenge Shopify in B2C. They have trained their guns on B2B. Adobe has the Magento legacy, which still has a lot of merchants on it. Remember when I said people don't want to re-platform or would rather gnaw their arm off? They don't want to lose these people. Coca-Cola is a good example. Adobe is now testing a new front end called Adobe Commerce Optimizer, which I think is what they're really trying to sell here, separate than the platform, because this tool can be used with any e-commerce platform according to their release. After all, it's Adobe, and they have their whole creative suite. If I'm going to put my money anywhere, I'm going to put my money on this product. They're also releasing in June essentially an instant provision cloud, Adobe Commerce Cloud as a Service, ACCS, for users who, I guess, don't want to provision their own Magento. I think of it like these WordPress hosts out there, like WP Engine and others, which can handle everything for you. Magento has tried to do this more times than I can count, or at least a couple. Maybe I can't count that high. One of their system integrator partners released an odd YouTube video based on an email they sent, and Adobe also released, was it Adobe that released it? Anyway, I listened to an AI-generated podcast which forces you to listen to 2 excited AI bots talking to each other like rabid goats. It was about the strangest product release tease I'd ever seen. The front-end Commerce Optimizer is like, it's whatever. It's Adobe, so you have to pay attention to it. The platform itself, hard to say, and it might be something I would steer away from. Adobe in this market is kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they don't change much, which is what is happening here, it's just the same thing managed for you. In that case, it's kind of like a tree falling in the woods. It will be for the people who are locked in and Adobe committed and don't have a lot of options. On the other hand, if they change a lot, then they have the same Magento 1 to Magento 2 problem all over again. They could screw over their user base, and for many people, it might be easier to re-platform than to upgrade. With a managed offering like this, customizations are a huge question. If you've customized your install to a great degree, which is most people at this point, my guess is this transition becomes quite difficult. If you haven't, you might use this transition period as yet another re-platform off-ramp. In June 2025, we will know more, but when the tree falls in the woods then, we'll at least be able to use our binoculars and see what color the tree is. Our second story. BigCommerce launches new account functionality. Manufacturers and distributors really just trying to represent their business accurately. The B2B world is in a race to digitize. Many companies in the mid market are trying to digitize without feeling they need to opt into forever Salesforce agreements. The Salesforce CRM is most definitely needed to use the Lightning Salesforce B2B solution properly, which the solution will definitely work. No arguments there. But how much cheaper can companies make it? While there's a lot you can do in Salesforce, it does come at the cost of lock in to the Salesforce eventually everywhere. And Salesforce keeps trying to go down market, and they don't necessarily have the organization or product to match it. With all that said, BigCommerce did make a step in the right direction with a recent account hierarchy feature, but if you're not in the space, it's not so obvious why you even need something like this. Digitizing old school companies comes with issues, particularly manufacturers and distributors where there's different quoting, approval, and service models for different business units, products, and approval workflows. Do these requests go to sales? Who in sales? Or do you funnel them to support? The same customer may also not have access to all the products. And so there are different catalogs, pack sizes, and even pricing needed for different types of clients. Additionally, if things weren't challenging enough, the company you bill to can be different than the company making the purchase, which may not have any relationship at all to the place that orders are being shipped to. To be clear, BigCommerce did not solve all of these issues with these updates, but it did close another gap with Salesforce regarding the ability to nest companies in each other for a client organization and how buyers within that organization can take action across it. Our third story. Klarna files IPO paperwork. It seems to me that Klarna is going to IPO soon. Do we actually think they're going to make it out? But I'm probably a slight bear on this release. First, Klarna and ShopPay are both examples of things that should not exist if PayPal actually has its eye on the ball. eBay had similar stories with Goat, Grailed, StockX, etc. On the other hand, with what I believe to be at least paying attention leadership from PayPal, I do worry for Klarna. It's always going to be one of many in the NASCAR list of payment options. But I do not worry for ShopPay in the same way because it has a structural advantage while a Shopify is still growing. Klarna at $105 billion in GMV facilitated is approximately a quarter of PayPal branded checkout GMV of about $500 billion. This $500 billion number is not exactly released from PayPal, but popular estimates put PayPal branded checkout GMV is about a third of PayPal's total $1.68 trillion total transaction processed GMV. Klarna's revenue growing at 24% mean its growth is about 4 times as fast as PayPal. I would also put Klarna at a similar size to ShopPay. ShopPay was $27 billion in Q4, just as an example, about a fourth of the total Klarna number. On the other hand, ShopPay is growing about twice as fast as Klarna, about 50% year over year. Second, Klarna has made a lot of noise about advertising and identity, and still, it's primarily a pay later network, or 80% of the GMV really goes here. Advertising is still only about 11% of revenue, and while it's growing, it's not exponentially so. Third, Sweden is still the market that stirs the drink for Klarna. The company has 80+ consumer penetration in its home country. No other country has greater than 40%, with Germany the close second at 33%, followed by the UK, then at 20.4%. The company is telling a lot of stories in its IPO filing about how markets will behave like the more mature markets, but it's still kind of a big stretch in my mind. And while the company is growing at 24% year over year at $2.4 billion in revenue, they barely squeaked out a net profit of only $21 million. That indicates the road ahead might be difficult. And our last story. Well, welcome to Shoptalk. I don't have anything prepared here, but I always love Shoptalk Week to meet up with a whole bunch of friends. If you want to meet up during the show, just hit me up on LinkedIn. Would be happy to spend a moment. It's that time, friends, for our Investor Minute. We have 5 items on the menu today. First, decentralized parcel delivery network Relay raises $35 million in Series A funding. Alternative parcel delivery network Relay has raised $35 million in Series A funding that will be used to hire developers and operational staff and to grow its network in the UK. An asset-light marketplace that uses gig economy drivers to ship parcels to customers? Where have we heard this before? And why will Relay differ from what's happened with Uber or DoorDash? Second, Highstock raises $5.5 million to help brands connect their unsold inventory with wholesale buyers who need it. Cross-border inventory management platform Highstock, which enables brands to move unsold inventory to wholesale buyers, has raised $5.5 million in seed funding. It's hard for brands to move to unsold stock due to the potential brand harm this may cause in local markets. Cross-border offers access to platforms that can move this inventory without impacting brand equity. This leads to revenue creation without having unsold inventory end up in landfills. It will be interesting to see how Highstock grows in the current climate. Third, Double Verify to acquire Rockerbox, an $85 million deal. Digital media measurement, data, and analytics platform Double Verify has announced that it will acquire marketing attribution solution Rockerbox for $85 million. The acquisition will enable Double Verify to advance its capabilities to offer end-to-end media performance measurement and AI-powered activation. A battle is happening in the marketing measurement sector as Double Verify aims to become a true end-to-end solution for advertisers and publishers. Fourth, e-commerce retention marketing platform Instant raised $18 million in Series A. Australian headquartered e-commerce retention marketing platform Instant raises $14 million in Series A funding at a reported valuation of $100 million. The new funding will be invested in product development and enhancing self-service capabilities for North American expansion. The retention of anonymous customers who abandon their carts via retargeting that leads to a conversion is a hot sector, as startups are using AI to generate revenues for brands. And finally, Swap raises $40 million to streamline e-commerce logistics. Swap, a cross-border trade platform, has announced that it's raised $40 million in Series B funding that will be used to build on a company's existing footprint with UK businesses, with an expansion plan into wider Europe and the United States, as well as to enter Australia and Canada. The company has found early success in the apparel sector and will now build solutions for Shopify and Global E, and in the current climate, cross-border can only become more complex. Did you know that RMW Commerce has another podcast? Check out the Watson Weekend for an unfiltered and lively e-commerce chat each week with me, Rick Watson, my co-host Jess Liseski, and an array of interesting guests and topics, all focused on e-commerce. You can find the Watson Weekend by searching for it on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. That's all for this week. Till next time, Watsonians. Hi, I'm Rick Watson, CEO and founder of RMW Commerce Consulting and host of the Watson Weekly podcast, your essential e-commerce digest. Our production partner for the series is Podcast on the Fly. This podcast is produced by RMW Commerce. To hear new episodes of the show every Monday morning, subscribe now at rmwcommerce.com/Watson Weekly and wherever you get your podcasts.